Cool beans, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the weekly wrap up of the fundamental and technical analysis. Um, I'm just going to go ahead and jump right into the wrap up. So, looking at the week, looking back over the week and wrapping it up today, we know that in the pre-week analysis, I told you guys that I was starting the week out with, right? Because we always have to see how we start out for the week. That doesn't necessarily mean that that analysis is going to hold throughout the entirety of the week. It's just the pre-week analysis, seeing what we think the markets are going to open up doing, right? And so I told you guys Sunday that I expected Dixie to open up bearish, and I wanted to see us pull back down into the previous week's discount array of the previous week's price range. So if we look at the weekly time frame, this is our last this is the previous week's price range here, right? We know that we measured that with our Fibonacci, right? And we know that our discount array, PD array, is the 62% of that range and the 79% of that range. And so I told you guys in the beginning of the week that I expected price to pull to the discount array, the discount PD array. And so we got that. We go back to the daily. We see we got that Monday, Tuesday, gave us a run of that 62% level and damn near reached that 79% level, right? And so then when we get to that level, we have to see how price reacts to that level, right? Whether price gives us a break below that level, if it's a weak break or if it's an aggressive break, right? So knowing this, if we are expecting price to continue bearish, what do we need to see? We need to see a breakthrough these levels, right? And we need to see a close below those levels. Did we get that? No. So what is price action telling you when you don't get that breakthrough those levels in a close below those levels? Now, obviously, price is telling you that it is unwilling to continue to go lower, right? And so when we see that Tuesday daily candle close the way that it does, that the way that it did, then that is an indication that price wants to continue to the upside. I told you guys Wednesday night that as long as we didn't close back below Monday's candle, right? Monday's daily candle, that I expected price to run through that weekly buy side liquidity again and run for this buy side liquidity or this level here, which is consequent encroachment, this wick, which is consequent encroachment of that wick. And I told you guys if we rent that level, that I would expect price to run this buy side liquidity right here, right? So we rent that Thursday, and today we seen price run that last level of buy side liquidity that I expected price or was anticipating price to run, right? Easy peasy, just simple order flow and price action. That's what we read in simple order flow and price action. So we basically seen everything play out accordingly, right? So that being said, looking at our currency pairs that inversely correlate with the dollar, we know if we was expecting the dollar to open up bearish, then we would be expecting our currency pairs to open up bullish. In the same way, we wanted to see the dollar pull back to the previous week's discount array. we would want to see currency pull back to the previous week's premium array. Those are these levels here. And um, just as we saw the dollar reach down into that 62% discount array of the previous week's price range, we saw Euro USD reach up into the 62% level of the premium array of last week's price range. I mean, real simple, right? Reached up Wednesday night. I told you guys that um, I didn't want to see price close back above Monday's candle. And if that happened, then I expected price to come back down, run sell side liquidity again, and run into this weekly fair value gap that's shaded here in blue. Is that not what happened? Obviously, that's what happened. So again, we saw the pre-week analysis play out accordingly. Um, looking at the pound, I told you guys the pound was a little different. We seen divergence in the pound opening up. So I told you guys in the pre-week analysis that I wanted to see the pound open up and run the previous week's buy side liquidity, which was here. I've moved it now, but it was here, right? We go to the weekly time frame. We will see that that was where the previous week's buy side liquidity sat, right? And I told you guys that I wanted to see the pound open up and run that buy side liquidity. And then I expected us to pull back down into the previous week's discount array. Is that not what happened? How was I expecting that or anticipating that? Well, we already know that 9 times out of 10, 90% of the time, when price runs a higher time frame liquidity, that we're going to see a reaction to that. We're going to see price do either one or two things. Well, one or three things. We're either going to see price continue to run aggressively in the direction that it's running, or we're going to see the market start to consolidate, or in other words, accumulate after running that higher time frame liquidity, or we're going to see price reverse after running that high time frame liquidity, right? So being that um I wanted to see um if we rent that buy side liquidity and how price reacted to that, right? And if we did not close above that buy side liquidity, then I expect the price to pull back to last week's discount rate. The same as I expected Euro USD to pull back up into the premium array, right? We wanted to see some bullish price action out of the pound as well. The only thing I didn't like about the pound was the divergence that I seen in the weekly price range. So as where we see the weekly price range for last week was for Euro USD was bearish, and the PD arrays were to the upside, right? Is in the form of premium arrays. For the pound, the PD arrays were to the downside in the form of discount arrays. So that's where the divergence came from that I mentioned earlier, right? So I still expected to see the pound open up bullish, as I expected to see Euro USD open up bullish, because I expected DXY or the dollar to open up bearish, right? And so after we seen the pound run that buy side liquidity, we seen how price reacted to that, right? Price came back down, slammed back down, created a long wick, and closed bearish Tuesday, right? That what is price telling you? What is that an indication of? Well, that's price telling you, and that's an indication that price is unwilling to continue to run higher, right? So if price isn't going to run higher, where else can it go? It could either go sideways in a state of accumulation, or what retail traders call consolidation, or it's going to go down, right? Well, being that it was Tuesday, right? We know more than likely the market isn't going to just consolidate or trade sideways for the rest of the week, especially when we had high impacting news drivers coming out. We know for a fact we're going to see some volatility in the market, right? And if the market is showing us unwillingness to move higher, then where else is price going to go for the rest of the week? Obviously lower, right? What are your targets? PD array, discount array, sell side liquidity. Not rocket science, but it is. So easy peasy, right? We see sell side liquidity rant. We seen that we seen PD arrays rant, and then we seen our sell side liquidity rant, right? And today price gave us that pullback up to that lower PD array, right? As to where it originally acted as a support, right? Price blow through that. So now when price come back to it, that same level is going to flip from acting as a support to acting as a resistance. Price came up, kissed it perfectly, and sold off. So that's that. NZD USD. Um, let me see. There's some things around. NZD look like this. Well, anyway, I wanted to see NZD USD pull back up into the premium array for um last week price range for NZD USD, right? And those must be daily PD arrays that I put on there Wednesdays. All right, so we expected price to pull back up into last week's premium array for NZD USD. You can go back down to the dollar, right? So price pull back up into that PD array beautifully, right? See how the bodies are respecting that upper PD array level, right? And then slams down to come back down and run Monday's sell side liquidity. Beautiful, beautiful. Simple price action and order flow, ladies and gentlemen. Easy money. It really isn't rocket science, but it is. The work ethic that and the discipline that goes into it makes it rocket science. But understanding it and deciphering which way price action is going to go, that shit ain't rocket science, man. Mark your weekly ranges, put your PD arrays on there, and let price literally speak to you and show you what it is that it wants to do. That's not hard at all. At all. So, with that being said, um, looking at silver, I told you guys that I wanted to see price push up into that push up and run that buy side liquidity and run up into this uh weekly fat value gap that I have marked here in blue. I'll take you back to the weekly. So this is that weekly fair value gap, right? I told you guys that I wanted to see silver open up and run up into that weekly fair value gap running last week's buy side liquidity, right? So this is last week's price range for silver. I told you guys that I wanted to see that buy side liquidity ran, and I wanted to see price run up into that weekly fair value gap. We did that times 10. So that's that. Um, for gold, same thing. I told you that I wanted to see price pull back up into last week's premium array, right? Premium PD array. And if we, depending on how aggressively we broke through those levels, right? If we did break through those levels that I wanted to see us run last week's buy side liquidity and run into this weekly fair value gap that I had shaded. That's exactly what happened. So that's that. Oil. I told you guys that I expected us to pull down into this weekly fair value gap that I have shaded here. That's exactly what happened. So that's that. In futures, I told you guys that I wanted to see us pull back up into the I've taking it all off now, but the consequent encroachment, right, that was here, right? I had the consequent encroachment mark here. I told you guys I wanted to see us push up into that. And if we broke above that, then I wanted to see us um run up into last week's premium arrays, right? So this level is that lower weekly PD array. This is the upper level PD array. And from Monday to Wednesday, that's exactly what price did. And then today, price ran up and not today, yesterday, price gave us one little one last drive up to go ahead and run that 79% premium array level, and then price slammed down to run Monday's sell side liquidity. Not rocket science. Um, E-mini Dow, same thing. I told you guys that I wanted to see price pull back up into the consequent encroachment of this weekly fair value gap. That's exactly what we got from E-mini Dow. And once we did hit that consequent encroachment perfectly, price sold off to run last week's sell side liquidity. Not rocket science. E-mini NASDAQ, same thing. I told you guys that I expected us to pull back up into the consequent encroachment of the weekly fair value gap. And if we broke and closed above that, I wanted to see us pull back up into the premium array of last week's price range. And if we broke above and broke and closed above that, I expected us to run last week's buy side liquidity. That's exactly what happened. And once we rent that buy side liquidity, we sold back off to run. We didn't run Monday's sell side liquidity, but we got damn close to it. Not rocket science. Simply following order flow and price action based off of your PD array levels and sell side and buy side liquidity levels. Um, Last but not least, crypto. I am boy, shoot, crypto ain't moving. I usually once we make a run like that on a level, and we rent this sell side liquidity like that right there. I expected us to pop back up real fast, and being that we didn't pop back up real fast, that concerns me. So we could very well see Bitcoin fall down into this shaded area on down to like 23,000. Um, and the same thing for Ethereum. And we could see Apecoin go lower too. So yeah, I'm monitoring the crypto markets very closely. BlackRock got everything all shook up right now. So just be on your P's and Q's and don't panic. Um, we could see a lot of blood in the streets from crypto, but crypto isn't going away. It will go back up, but they just might try to squeeze everybody out before the next Bitcoin halving and before the next crypto bull run. And that is a very strong possibility. So, hey, if you're going to play the game, make sure you got the appetite for it. So that will conclude the weekly technical wrap up. At this time, I'll pass it over to Corman so she can give us the fundamental wrap up for the week. It's all yours, Corman.
Okay. Oh, wait. Okay, cool. Um, um, so we're going to keep it pretty short for you guys, because my background is a little bit noisy right now. But let me see. I'm just gonna kind of tell you the news, because my connection isn't super strong, and I know that it's going to start lagging. So today we had a lot of speeches. Today is day 2 of Jackson Hole. We also had the BRIC Summit earlier this week, which is the first one. If you did not catch that, I highly recommend that you do so, because the bullish sentiment amongst foreign nations when it comes to the dollar is kind of over in a sense. Also, really quick, just in regards to crypto, so there's like a new proposal for crypto on how to bill taxes, that sort of thing. So, um, especially if you are a holder of crypto, I definitely suggest that you go and read it. They're currently accepting proposals on it until the end of October, and then public hearings will be in November. But essentially, what will happen is anybody who holds crypto, it doesn't matter where and what kind of platform you hold it on, and it doesn't matter if it's a cold or hot wallet or something that just kind of sits and you let a platform hold on to your crypto. Regardless, they're all required to pretty much um, give you up. There's no easy way to say it, but the IRS will be getting forms of all digital assets. So when you do your tax forms now, normally they ask you, and you have to self, declare all these things. But now it's going to make it so that you can't do that anymore. And for those people who are like, well, it's fine because I'm just going to use my cold wallet. Well, any platform where you have to exchange and use cryptos off of your cold wallet, they're required to report that you did so. So that is going to be considered a transfer of assets, and then they'll know whether or not, like what type of wallet it was from where it came in. So they'll be able to know appropriately how to tax you and how to label it on the tax form. So that's just one little thing to kind of keep in mind when it comes to crypto. Um, Also, just continue to pay attention to some of these economic updates, because there's a lot of things going on in the market that could potentially be manipulators. So obviously you got debates ramping up right now for the election. You have indictments, you have um, summits going on right now, and then just regular Forex calendar or economic news that's out. Um, I'm just pulling up next week just so that you guys can have a sense of what next week is going to look like. So, one important thing to note is that Tuesday we will have the trying to figure out how to put it. So the S&P, they have a housing price index. That number comes out Tuesday along with consumer confidence jobs, followed by ADP non-farm preliminary GDP price index, pending home sales. Thursday, we have the typical news, which is unemployment claims in addition to core PCE. And then we are going to have non-farm payroll in addition to ISM manufacturing on Friday. So next week is going to be a very heavy economic week. Um, a week for new lows to be tested, um, previous highs to possibly be retested. However, this weekend will say a lot going into next week about how things are going to be. And then also next week is going to be an interesting week as well because Monday there is no trading after, like, so Monday the 4th, there's no trading because it's a holiday. So I anticipate that next week's going to be very interesting because you're going to be starting a long weekend and then the week after just because it's a short week. So in a nutshell, that's all I have for fundamentals. I don't actually have my laptop, so um, if you have questions about stocks or if you have questions about any of the financial statements, we can go over that. But I just don't have any of the prepared stuff on my tablet. So that's all I have for you guys.
Cool beans, cool beans, cool beans. We appreciate that, Carmen. I know you're traveling right now. You're in the airport, and that's why it sounds like that in the background. So no worries. We still appreciate you taking out time to show up for us tonight and give us the sauce. We appreciate that. So at this time, I will stop the recording and take any questions. I appreciate everybody tuning in tonight, coming out, getting this knowledge, and empowering yourselves. Let your family and friends know you love them while they still here, please. And as always, peace and love, everybody. You know.